What should the Southwestern Railway fleet look like by 2030? Some rules I will follow are 1. Realistic electrification projects, 2. Availability of trains, 3. No standalone multiple units. Southwestern Railways operates services mainly in the South East London, Surrey, Royal Berkshire, Hampshire and Dorset. Let's start with the Class 158 Express Sprinter built by British Rail Engineering Limited in the late 1980s and early 1990s. These would get withdrawn and replaced on new units. The reason for the replacement is because they run a fair distance over electrified lines and cannot make use of the electrification. The Class 158s will be sent to another train operating company because they are still useful trains. Next, the Class 159 Southwest Turbos, built by British Rail Engineering Limited in the late 1980s and early 1990s as 158s, then converted to 159 style Rosyth dockyards in Scotland. These would get withdrawn and replaced on new units. The reason for the replacement is because they run a fair distance over electrified lines and cannot make use of the electrification like the 158s. The 159s will be sent to another option because they are still useful trains. Next, the Class 444s built by Siemens in the early 2000s. These will be retained by Southwestern Railway since they still have a good 30 years life left in them. Also, they are some of the most reliable trains in the country. They will be modified with the addition of a pantograph for the Southwestern Main Line between Woking and Weymouth, which is getting converted to overleaf for freight traffic. Moving on to the Class 450s built by Siemens in the early 2000s. These would be retained by Southwestern Railways since they still have a good 30 years life left in them. Also, they are some of the most reliable trains in the country. They would be modified with the addition of a pantograph for the Southwestern Main Line between Woking and Weymouth, which is getting converted to overhead line electrification for freight traffic. They would operate on the newly electrified routes to Salisbury and Reading from Basingstoke. The Basingstoke stoppages would get extended to Salisbury. Next, the Class 455s, also known as the 4-hit, under Southern Region Classification System, built by British Rail Engineering Limited in the late 1970s and early 1980s. These would be withdrawn like planned and replaced by the Class 701s. The 4-hit stands for 4 High Intensity Tight Dot Coupler. Next, the Class 458s built by Alstom in the late 1990s and early 2000s, which would get reformed like planned from the 458-5s into the 458-4s. The 458s would be retained like planned by SWR. Moving on to the Class 701s built by Bombardier and Alstom in the late 2010s and early 2020s, which would have a few changes made to them to make them better units. They would say with SWR, the few changes would be stuff like better reliability in terms of software, replace cabs with gangway cabs to allow for passage between units at short platforms and throughout the journey, which would make life easier for both passengers and staff. Next, the Class 707 built by Siemens and the new 2010s would be withdrawn like planned once the 701s enter service on the Windsor lines. The last few 707s would be sent to the southeastern like planned. Next, the Class 73s built by English Electric in the 1950s and 1960s. These locos are mainly used for shunting in Wimbledon Park Depot and Bournemouth Depot would be withdrawn and replaced by new class of tri-mode, third rail, diesel and overhead locomotives built by Stadler. The reason for the replacement of the Class 73s is the S-73s is the age of the Class 73s. They are often quite weak, unreliable for shunting since their batteries rarely get charged and are often dead unless they are left on a third rail electrified line. Finally, the Class 750s, these would be tri-mode units built by CAF to replace the 158s and 159s. The 750s would have end gangways, ASDO, automatic selective door opening, diesel, third rail and overhead capabilities. The units would be 110 mph capable units. The units would each be 4 coaches in length. There will be a fleet of 50 units to accommodate an enhancement of services like the West of England mainline services will become every 30 minutes to Exeter St David's with new double tracking and passing loops added. The Class 750s will be fitted with the signaling systems of ECTS, European Train Control System, AWS, Automatic Warning System and TPWS Train Protection and Warning System. The trains would feature the intercity 70 seats for maximum comfort. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to Trainspotting from Berkshire.